Henry Moore believes that sculpture is an art of the open air and not an indoor art. He's got 2 or 3 acres of grass and trees attached to his house to give him, in his own words, a piece of ground on which I can try out my sculptures and see whether from a distance they tell, whether the forms are big enough and bold enough and contrasting enough in their shapes. He's also built 2 large studios in these grounds where the big sculptures are made. The house and its grounds are in Hertfordshire, and here he lives quietly with his wife and his daughter. Moore himself doesn't buy works of art. It's Mrs. Moore who does the collecting, and the place is packed with pictures and sculpture. Paintings in every art corner and sculptures on every available surface. A case in the hall holds a collection of Aztec and early Mexican work.
I like very much this one here, this Aztec piece.
Does it come out?
Yes, we can get it out, I think. But I have to be very careful.
All right.
It's it was in 50 pieces and it's been put together again. This is Mexican what, I suppose, around 1,000 or a little after, and Aztec. And what I find very interesting in it, apart from the fact that Mexican sculpture influenced me tremendously in the early stages, is that this is an example of early stone sculpture which is really open and free. You see, these are the legs crossed. Here's the thigh of the leg. This is the arm, and this is the body. But the whole thing giving you a space under and through, supporting, as it were, by space, the huge weight of the head, and yet architecturally strong, and yet free and open. And that, for me, is a remarkable sculptural invention.
I think you'd better put it back now before it shatters into another 50 fragments. It makes me nervous.
And me.
Tell me about this one over here on the left.
Oh, this is Mexican as well, but a different culture from the other. And I think a very fine piece that I'm staggered whenever I look at it, as now, at what kind of remarkable authority and presence that head has got. The head in particular is what moves me very, very strongly. I think it has such a presence with it, and kind of almost hypnotic power, a kind of priest-like quality. And perhaps in the background that may have had some connection with the head of the king in the King and Queen group of mine that I made some 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes, that's that one over there.
Yes.
One of the things that strikes me about this figure, for example, is that it's one of the very few male figures that you've ever made. Now, in the first place, is this right?
Yes, I think I've done about 3 or 4 male figures out of the hundreds and hundreds that I've done, the sculptures. And now you mention it, they practically are all women. In fact, my subject is a female figure.
Why?
A woman. I don't know. It's just that that's what I'm interested in. But why? I don't know, and I don't think I want to know.
All right. Now, why not?
Well, perhaps I can explain. Recently, there was a book published on my work by some Jungian psychologist, a very good writer named Neumann. I think the title was The Archetypal World of Henry Moore.
Yes.
And he sent me a copy, which he asked me to read. But after the first chapter, I thought I'd better stop because it explained too much about what my motives were and what... and I thought it might stop me from ticking over if I went on and knew it all. So I prefer really to not talk about one's work too much, not to try to explain it too much. One can say things that don't matter about it, yes, but to try to go into what its deep motives and reasons are, I think might stop one from wanting to go on. That is, perhaps if I was psychoanalyzed, I might stop being a sculptor. I don't know, but anyhow, I don't want to stop being a sculptor.
Are you suggesting that it's impossible to talk about art, and that this program we are concerned with, for example, is useless?
No, not at all. what I'm now I find I look in at this program very often, and for instance, the one you did on Lawrence Durrell, I found that after it, his books meant a bit more to me than they had done before, that it gave me a clue about him, and it made him as a person real, and therefore his works more real. Yeah. In that sense, I think it's very valuable. And again, too, one can give a tiny clue, perhaps, in talking about what you're trying to do, and therefore people don't look for something you're not trying to do. But all I mean is you can't explain in a few words what you've been trying to do for a whole lifetime. That, and again, that you shouldn't try to use up words and get rid of attention that should be used in your sculpture.
The place where these tensions are released into sculpture, the powerhouse, as it were, for Moore's work, is a small studio near the house where he does his thinking and makes his experiments. There are little trays there full of bits and pieces, and I asked him what they were for.
Well, they're odds and ends that I've picked up on the seashore or out of the garden or in ploughed fields. Any shapes. To have a collection of things like this around you means that if I just walk in here in the morning, there's something that will get me thinking or started off about shape, about form, which is what, of course, sculpture is. In fact, any kind of shape which catches one's eye at any time, I pick up and just say or keep. And you see, sculpture is purely this interest in form and shape, not in literary ideas or that kind of thing, so that anything is grist for your mill. Any shape whatever, people, trees, the clouds, any shape whatever is a possible starting or excitement for one.
There are experimental shapes all over the studio shelves, models and maquettes, some of which have remained what they now are, some of which have been hammered and cut and moulded into the big open-air pieces. And there are scores of mother and child pieces. Despite his earlier reluctance to talk about his main themes, I persisted a little, asking him why this mother and child subject had always so occupied him.
I wouldn't really know. I do know that it has been one of the two main themes.
That and the reclining figure.
That and the reclining figure. And perhaps it isn't as much now as it used to be, but at one time, almost anything I did turned into a mother and child. Why, I don't know. It's just a theme that at one time obsessed me.
There must be some reason.
Yes, I agree. But I don't know it.
I brought with me this book with a photograph in it which I marked of your own Madonna and Child at Northampton. Is it a Madonna and Child or a mother and child? Is there any difference between them?
Well, there is a difference, and I tried to make the difference. I felt very strongly that there should be a difference between just an ordinary mother and child and the Madonna and Child. But in this I tried to give some sort of hieratic stillness, some kind of permanence about the whole pose, some sort of looking out onto the world, but how much happened I don't know.
But you do this, don't you, with even when you're making mothers and children, it has this hieratic, monumental quality in your work, isn't that right?
Well, not as much, I don't think. I mean, sometimes I'm not concerned with that. You see, there can be the opposite point of view about a mother and child from this, which does connect with it. This is a kind of this warm, human, gentle relationship between the mother and child, but there is the opposite, in which the...
Such as?
Well, in which the child is really almost trying to devour its mother. But,
like
that kind of, yes. That mother and child there, in which the child is rapacious and almost so hungry that it could eat its mother. The mother almost has to hold the child at arm's length like a grip on its neck with a... and that does happen too in this relationship of the mother and child.
Now I know you've got these sculptures and oil paintings and so on all over the house, but I noticed that here in the studio there are no paintings at all except for this one.
Yes, well, that really is unique in my life. It's the only picture I've ever really wanted to own, and it's the first one. It's a Cézanne, Baylor's composition, and when I saw it about a year ago, I didn't sleep for 2 or 3 nights trying to decide whether
to fork out the
yes,
enormous amount of cash necessary,
quite.
isn't there? Yes.
But it has for me all the qualities of Cézanne, the really monumental qualities of Cézanne, and altogether gives me tremendous joy to have. It's not perfect, it is a sketch, but then I don't like absolute perfection. I believe that one should make a struggle towards something you can't do, rather than do the thing you can do easily. In fact, that's what about Cézanne. That is, his life was one monumental struggle and aim to extend himself and painting and art generally. Again, too, you see, it has my kind of figure in it. Each of those women I could quite easily turn into a piece of sculpture straight away. Mm. There's this mature, middle-aged idea of women, and not the young slip of a girl.
Would you say it's romantic?
Very romantic. Take the figure on the left, the one with the back almost like a gorilla, so wide, and yet with 4 lots of long tresses. A very romantic idea of woman.
I asked that only because it seems to me that the word romantic is the last word one would apply to your work.
Well, no, not at all. I think I have a very romantic idea of women.
Of all the works that you're exhibiting at the moment at this present exhibition, which are the most important to you?
Well, I suppose it's what one hopes are the 2 last ones. The 2 large, reclining, 2-piece figures, made in 2 pieces.
Yes, we've seen one of them already.
Yeah. Probably because they have, well, I think I can explain it to you with by photographs. I have some of them somewhere, I think. I take my own photographs.
Sorry.
Well, photographers never take the view you want and so on. You'll have to do it.
You photograph all your sculptures?
Practically all, just to be sure that it is the views that one wants. This is it. This is number 1. There are 2 of them, and they're more or less done together, but the number 1, 2-piece one is this. It's a reclining figure, as you can see, and connects up with all my reclining figures.
Which will be
again, if I can show you, the one of the first reclining figures I did, you'll see that it has the same connection, the same idea in it. It's 1928. Yeah.
This one?
This one. See the same looming leg, the upright body end. And in this case I divided it into 2, of which there's the head, the body, head and the leg.
Is this a leg too?
Well, this is the, yes, this is the beginning of a leg.
It's a rudimentary
leg.
Now these 2 figures are totally separate. Did you make them separately?
Oh yes, they're in They're in two pieces, I think. This one shows it. You see that the head end and the leg end. And probably what that results in through making a sculpture out of two parts is that one part gets in front of the other in a way you can't guess. And so the sculpture has, I think, a greater variety in its aspects, in its views, than probably any other sculpture that I've made. For example, there it is from the leg end. Yeah. This sculpture was a mixture. It's a mixture of the human figure and landscape. And this one perhaps shows what was in my mind, the connection with mountains. You see, you could imagine yourself walking along this here, climbing up, going up.
Little tiny figure.
Yeah. Tiny figure with a... well, there it is. This and the other are sculptures in which I've tried to amalgamate the figure and landscape and mountains, a kind of metaphor, like in poetry you'd say the mountains skipped like rams. Here there is a figure which is connected with the earth, with rocks, mountains. It's a metaphor.